All right, boys and girls, today we are talking about Virginia, my hometown and my home state. Let's talk about the pros and cons. If you're thinking about moving here, or maybe you're just coming here to visit, I want to lay out everything that I know of Virginia and why I love it so much. But don't get me wrong, every state's got some cons as well. So we're gonna lay those out, at least in my opinion. Now, before we get started, I want you to know that I'm an outdoorsman. I love being outdoors and I am not a huge city life person. So I'll probably be a little harsh on the city and traffic and the things I hate versus being out in the country or being out on a farm, being up in the mountains, being on the Atlantic Ocean, whatever it may be, things that I really enjoy. That brings me to my first pro. Just how many, not only seasons, but how many landscapes we have here in Virginia. I live here in Fredericksburg, which I'm not saying Fredericksburg's the end all be all. Pretty much anywhere in Virginia, you can get there within 5 or 6 hours, right? So even if you're on one side going all the way to the other, 5 or 6 hours is probably the maximum that you're gonna be traveling. But here in Fredericksburg, I really like it because I can be into the mountains in about an hour, hour and a half. I can also be on the Chesapeake or the Atlantic Ocean, being Virginia Beach. So if I wanna be at the beach, Virginia Beach about 2 hours, and anywhere on the Chesapeake about an hour, hour and a half for that saltwater, waterman kind of experience, right? We also have a bunch of tidal rivers. So if you're thinking saltwater, brackish, freshwater, we have some great rivers. So we have the Potomac, we have the James, we have the York, and we also have the Rappahannock. Rappahannock, the fall line of the Rappahannock, so as far as boats could go up, ends right here in Fredericksburg, and that's why there's a city right here. We have a lot of history, especially when it comes to battlefields and Revolutionary War, and even Jamestown, the first established colony that made it in the United States. But we also have DC within the hour. If we go up north, we have Richmond down south about an hour, which is our state capital. So if you're looking for that city life, again, those are the top cities. We have places like Charlottesville and Roanoke and Lynchburg and Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads. We have some really cool big cities as well. But you go 15, 20, 30 minutes outside of any one of these cities, and you're gonna be in pretty rural areas. In fact, I live on a 30-acre farm here in Fredericksburg. I'm about 20 minutes from town, maybe 25 minutes from the heart of downtown Fredericksburg, where you have that historic downtown vibe. And again, I can be in Northern Virginia within the hour. And let's talk about pro number 2, proximity to major job markets. And I mean major job markets. Northern Virginia and DC, the amount of federal jobs up there, the amount of big businesses, tech, and also we have military bases. So we have a pile of people moving in and moving out at any given time in our Northern Virginia market. Richmond's gonna have a pile of big jobs and big contractors, as well with Virginia Beach and the Norfolk area. There's some huge shipyards down there as well, plus military stations. That brings us to another point that we're insulated very well in economic downturns because we have so many federal jobs here. And here in my small town of Fredericksburg, 300,000 people, you know, at one point, 60% of the population drove up north every day, including my wife. She was one of them. I worked here in town. She drove up north. Another pro that I think is the 4 distinct seasons. I really enjoy that. I like having a little bit of everything. I know a lot of folks like warm. People are heading down to Florida, Texas. But today it's 60 degrees, which is a little wild. But we have spring, summer, fall, winter. That could also be a con in some people's eyes, but I enjoy that. And I think Virginia, especially the Appalachian Mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains, I think have the prettiest fall out there when we have the leaves changing colors. Hands down, take the time, go Google it. But also if you want to come visit, do that as well. But go Google how pretty the Appalachian Mountains are when the leaves start changing. We have apple festivals and pumpkin festivals, all sorts of crazy stuff up the mountains. I recommend you take the time to get in your car and come check out. Pro number 4, strong education and healthcare. Now, I am a student of Virginia public schools, and I'm not going to speak on that because I'm not a professional by any means, but I did find some articles, worldpopulationreview.com, where they ranked Virginia in the top 10, being spot number 9, but in the United States for public school education. That's kind of cool. Again, I'm not going to really speak on that. You're going to have to do your own homework on that. And then so healthcare, which again, I'm not a healthcare expert by any means, but they ranked us in the top 15, being spot 14 for a healthcare system here in Virginia. Here in my hometown of Fredericksburg, we have 4 different hospitals. We have Mary Wash, we have Spotsylvania, we have Stafford, and we have the new VA hospital. So if you're a veteran, this has been a huge addition to our veteran community, and they say that the hospital is really good. I didn't serve. I don't know how that healthcare system really works. They say it's a really kick-ass hospital, so check that out. And then the last thing I'm just going to talk about is that mix of urban convenience and space. So we have huge towns right outside urban spaces, right outside of very rural areas. Depending on where you're at, you kind of get a mix of everything. That could be good for some people and bad for some other people, but I like it. Good. I like having a little bit of everything. But let's talk about some cons now, which I think is something that's quickly getting a little out of hand. I don't know how other states are feeling, but obviously after COVID, I feel like with inflation, everything, cost of living's become a pretty big ticket item for a lot of folks moving, just folks struggling right now to survive with just how everything's gotten so daggone expensive. Virginia is a pretty expensive state on the list of states. It's in the top 50%. One of the biggest costs that we talk about is always going to be housing. And because this is a real estate channel, I should be able to talk on that a little bit more. Every county is going to be a little bit different. And the big driving factor is how far we get away from Northern Virginia. Median sales price for Loudoun County is going to be about $775. We come down just about an hour south, and a lot of folks, again, commute up to get that kind of money because the job market's so much stronger up there. But you come down here about an hour south, our sales price is about $460. A bordering county right next to us, Westmoreland, the average sales price $330. So it depends on how long you really want to commute to get those higher paying jobs and sit in traffic and stuff like that. You can actually get a pretty decent sized house and still make good money. But you can also go down to like places like Southwest Virginia, where the average sales price is going to be around $400, but you can get a really good deal for that. And maybe some land, stuff like that. Again, cost of living, it is higher than the average state in the United States, but it really depends on where you live. Many of the counties actually are on the lower side of cost of living basis. Con number 2 is always going to be traffic for me. I hate traffic. Virginia constantly ranks in the top 10 in the United States for the most amount of traffic. And most years, I would say we're number 1 for Northern Virginia and the amount of traffic that comes through here. Now, we are blessed that we have 95 that comes through Fredericksburg, but that's also our downside. Whenever 95 is messed up, everything else is going to be messed up because most people are trying to get around it and they get off and go through, because we also have things like Route 1 and 17 that were the old 95s of their day. So depending on the traffic and how you feel about that, the average commute time for someone living in my area is going to be over an hour. Again, I live 20 minutes from my work. But my wife is a prime example. Before we had children, she was working up in Northern Virginia. She commuted 5 hours a day. So 2-hour train ride each way, 30 minutes to get to the train station, and then she would have to do it all again in the afternoon. So it was almost like she had a part-time job just to get to her work and get home, which is a little crazy to me. 5-hour commute's probably a little bit on the excessive side. Because Virginia, on average, most counties are going to rank somewhere in between a 40-minute commute and an hour commute. But you get closer to the city, say if you live in Richmond, the average commute cuts under 20 minutes of drive time. So it really depends where you live in Virginia. The lifestyle fit is not for everybody. It's not a one-stop shop for all. It just really depends on what you're looking to do. And then we kind of need to pick the area on where you're looking. And if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I will try my best to answer them. Of course, if I don't know them, I will reach out to try to find someone who does know them, and we'll answer accordingly. And I will see you on the next one.